Well, I suppose when I was at school, we had a Latin master who played the recorder, and he had a school recorder group. So I was never very good at balancing, and my father sold my pair of roller skates, which I crashed off every time I got on them, and bought me a recorder instead. And then I graduated to the flute from the recorder, but still, as most recorder players do, still maintained a love of the recorder, and that gradually became what I was really interested in. Well, I went to read law, but there were just so many musicians around that it was musical heaven. Not at my own college, Fitzwilliam, which was actually very bad musically at the time. It's not now, it's extremely good. And the head of music there, the director of music, is the editor of early music, so it's fine now. My only musical friends at my old college were David Atherton, the conductor, and Nicholas Marshall, who's remained a friend ever since. And every time I need a new piece, I just get on the telephone and say, Nicky, can I have a piece, please? And it comes within a few weeks, which is absolutely wonderful. But in the university generally, there were enormous numbers of musicians, and gradually I got to know them all. My college, Fitzwilliam House as it then was opposite the Fitzwilliam Museum, and in the little street down by the side there, Christopher Hogwood had his digs, so he sort of said, come on, do some concerts, and got me to do performance on the flute, and gradually I got to know everybody. Pembroke was down the road, and David Munrow was there, and all sorts of people such as John Eliot Gardner, Andrew Davis, well, loads of composers, loads of instrumentalists, Chris Van Kampen on the cello and Tony Pay on the clarinet. So it was really a very, very happy and very fulfilling time. I still managed to do a little bit of law from time to time, stayed on for an extra law degree because I thought that would give me more chance to do more music, which it did. Well, first of all, my mother was an extremely good and talented pianist. She used to accompany me on the flute and the recorder when I was young, and she was really very good and very interested. And then when I was at school, I was there with a wonderful man called Douglas Steele, who was Sir Thomas Beecham's assistant at Covent Garden. Extremely eccentric, he kept having nervous breakdowns, but he was really quite inspirational. Very good composer, although when he had a fit of the depression, he tended to tear up his manuscripts. He was one of the founding fathers of Cheetham School as well, and his pupils there included David Hill and Stephen Huff, both of whom adored him as I did. And I didn't actually do any exams in music. Well, I didn't do GCE in music when I was at school because I didn't terribly like the other music master. But Douglas was very much of a kindred spirit, and when he died I was his executor, and we have a trust under his will to support his music at Stockport Grammar School and Cheetham School as well, which I hope we use wisely. David Munrow was at Pembroke College, and I met him very early on, and he wanted to use in a recorder consort players who played other instruments, because he thought if you just played the recorder you weren't any good, which is not entirely true. So we had a recorder consort, and he got me into his group playing Baroque music, and I had a whale of a time with him. And then when I finished at Cambridge, I did my law exams, and one day he phoned and said, do you still play the recorder? So I said, yes, occasionally. So he said, well, will you please quickly join the Musicians' Union, because I've been asked by Benjamin Britten to do the Alpine Suite in the Albury Festival. And I played in that. It was absolutely terrifying. I still remember my knees knocking. It was with the English Chamber Orchestra. It was a live broadcast on Radio 3 with Britten, who was lovely actually to me, in the box. And we also did in that programme, I remember, a piece by John Gardner, an occasional suite. Very occasional. It's never been performed since, because it was written for the specific instrumentation of that orchestra, of that concert. So it was for 3 clarinets, because they did the Stravinsky piece, 3 recorders, harpsichord and strings. And later on I got to know John Gardner very well. He's written quite a lot. He wrote quite a lot for me, and he sent me a disc of that performance, which was well, I don't think it was all that good, but never mind, it was very nice to have. Oh, it's difficult to count. It's over 500. The pieces keep coming, some asked for, and which I'm delighted, and some just come through the post. I do whatever I can with them. Occasionally one gets duff pieces, but not very often, I must say. Well, Ida I knew very well from being young, because my flute lessons were at the junior school at the Northern School of Music from about the age of 13, I think. So I've known Ida all that time and really adored her. She was a marvellous lady, and as you probably know, her father was Walter Carroll, who was Manchester Music for many years. So with my legal hat on, I was her executor, or one of her executors, and we have a trust under her will, which basically helps Manchester Music in all sorts of ways. We commission music, we help with recordings, we help with concerts. We don't encourage people who are already well funded to apply to us. We like to think that we can do things which wouldn't happen unless we did. And when the Henry Watson Library was under threat some time ago, we set up through the Ida Carroll Trust, we set up the Manchester Musical Heritage Trust, which has a journal, should be annual but isn't because it's a lot of work, called Manchester Sounds, to give publicity to music in this area. Just about to sort out another edition of it now. Well, there are quite a lot of composers that I've known very well. Thomas Pitfield particularly, who was of course an artist and a poet as well as a composer, and was very kind and wrote me a wonderful concerto which is out on Naxos. Then from Manchester there's Peter Hope, who's one of the country's leading light music composers, Tony Gilbert, who was at the Royal Northern College, and then there have been a host of other composers who've written for me and whose music I've done. Robert Crawford, Ian Parrott, Wilfred Mellors, Stephen Dodgson. Oh, the list goes on, and I just love to help if I can. And it's particularly nice when I'm able to do music by composers who've been forgotten. In fact, there are two that I've been involved with recently, one of whom is Peter Pope, who was a pupil of John Ireland and then Nadia Boulanger, and then joined the Exclusive Brethren, which effectively meant he couldn't compose until the end of his life. And I was delighted to discover his only published work, which is a Recorder Sonatina, which was written in 1939, and to bring that to light. And I've also been very much involved with the music of Anthony Burgess recently, who of course wrote Clockwork Orange, and who thought, I think mistakenly, that he was a rather better composer than author. So it's very nice to discover these unknown people. And another one actually is Roy Heaton Smith. Before the Manchester School came along, Max, Harry and Sandy Gurr, he was the white hope of composition at the Royal Manchester College. Lots of broadcasts, and then went and taught at Middleton Grammar School and got forgotten as a composer. And I've just recorded a little sonatina by him. Lovely music, a man who's, totally been eclipsed. So it's very nice to bring them into the light once more. Manchester composers who I've also been very much involved with are John Manjor, who is the principal of the Royal Northern College of Music, who's an extremely good composer, pupil of Lennox Berkeley and Alwyn, whom I knew very well, and who's written me various pieces. Also John McCabe, who I've known for a great many years, because when I was in practice, the firm acted for his family, and I think John at that time had just qualified and as a musician and needed some money, so we got him, I remember, copying work with the Halley at that time, and of course he's become one of the most distinguished composers around. David Ellis was the head of Radio 3, and again David is a good friend, and I remember many years ago he told me he didn't understand my instrument and that he could never write for it. But when Ida Carroll died, within a few days I received a little canticle for recorder cello and harpsichord, which subsequently expanded into a full trio and then was orchestrated. And really it's been rather difficult to stop him writing for the recorder ever since, and it's extremely good music. Another good friend is Tony Gilbert, who I think I mentioned earlier, who was head of composition at the Royal Manchester College of Music. In his early days he wrote all sorts of very difficult music, and he wrote for me a wonderful but extremely difficult concerto called Igorochki, based on ideas from Stravinsky. I think Igorochki, probably pronouncing it wrong, is the Russian for little playthings. Igorochki, I think it should be. I remember when I got that piece, I thought, what am I supposed to do with this? You know, I sort of had to play multiphonics, sing, hum, quarter tones, improvise, the lot. But I've done it several times and recorded it, and it was a really wonderful piece. And he's just written another piece for my birthday, which I haven't done yet, but will be doing shortly. Stephen Wilkinson is another good friend who was with the BBC, and at the moment I'm trying to organise a volume of his songs to be published by Forsyth. He tends not to write instrumental music, but I did get from him some time ago a rather wonderful song cycle for soprano and recorder, which I hope to perform again this year.